So here we are. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and hope you are well. Well, it's another episode, it's another uh, session with leaders really from the future who are creating and changing things as we speak. So I'm really glad to host today none other than a good colleague and amazing leader, CEO of Cardano Foundation himself. So without further ado, let him jump into the stream, do a quick introduction, and then take it on there as quickly as possible. Frederick, good morning from Switzerland. And can you introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. Thank you for inviting me back. My name is Frederik Gregaard, and I'm the CEO of the Cardano Foundation.
Yeah. So for those people that has been working on the blockchain, you are a very familiar face. We're happy to see you on our talk show again and again and again. So that would be something super amazing. Blockchain is taking the world. Cardano is trying to be part of this future. Has Cardano been involved in various initiatives, of course, recently? Can you share some of those key projects the foundation is currently focused on?
Yeah. So Cardano just went through the largest hard fork in the last 2.5 years, which we call the Chang 1 hard fork. So this is truly amazing. And there's really three things which happened there. The first thing which a lot of people pay attention to is this continuous evolution of gathering the sharpest minds from all around the world to be a part of the governance of Cardano. So this is really about ensuring a tri-camel model where there is, accountability and influence, and that everybody from wherever you are, that you can have a say in the future role of Cardano and the future roadmap of Cardano, including decisions to be made. And we're going to do that through something called delegated representatives, which is basically, you can think about this as online politicians, where you can, in a liquid democracy, delegate your ADA to them, and they can, vote on behalf of you. But compared to many other types of democracy, if the people you're delegating to is not doing what you want them to do, you can, in a liquid format, just withdraw your vote delegation. And that basically means that they don't no longer represent you there. So that's going to be a very interesting journey to see how that pans out. And we're now sort of in the interim period where we have an interim constitution, including an algorithmic guarded implementation of that. That means there's a set of smart contracts who guards malicious behavior on the blockchain. And we are right now doing 50 workshops around the world to write the first real constitution for a digital nation state with the size of Cardano. I mean, there's about 5, 7, 8 million people who interact with Cardano, every single week. And that basically means it's larger than the country of Georgia, and maybe even on the size of the country of Denmark, where I'm from. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how those 50 workshops basically lead into a new constitution, which is then going to be voted upon and ratified, and then expressed both algorithmically, but also with a set of what we think about as constitutional committee members, who is equaling the judges of the world, looking at the law, the constitution, and comparing that to the governance proposals, the Cardano improvement proposals, the treasury withdrawals, and other things. And last but not least, we have, of course, the people who run the blockchain, the stake pool operators, who are the last defense, right? So we have over 3,000 stake pool operators who guard the code and the operation resilience of that. And you can argue back and forth, is this really the best model to do, and so on? And that's not really the point. The point here is that this is an accountability model, which is completely done on blockchain with some off-chain components to it, like you would see in any kind of governance form. And that will allow you to get data points to optimize this model as we go forward, but also for the first time ever, nation states and monarchs and wherever you are in the world, you'll be able to see and actually pinpoint the flaws and the improvements, but also the successes of this type of governance model. The second thing we did with the Chang hard fork, which was a very loaded code update, is we introduced even more operation resilience aspects into it. Cardano is already, together with Bitcoin, the two only large blockchains who's never been down. And we have an uptime over 3,000 days, and we have the most code changes of any of the large blockchains out there. And we're doing that while never been down. I'm coming from a world where I built investment bankings and Rails for financial market infrastructure for a living. I mean, it's unheard of. I mean, you take down your infrastructure and you patch it maybe on a bi-monthly basis or even on a weekly basis, right? But the fact that we have over 3,000 days and still running with all these code changes, it really puts us and Bitcoin in a complete different category. And we're already working now on the risk mitigation frameworks and the rollback frameworks in order for large enterprises and critical infrastructure to be able to be comfortable with a decentralized infrastructure like ours, when you think about things like SOC frameworks, Ether frameworks. And last but not least, which was also in the hard fork, which is amazing as well, is BLS signatures and new hash primitives. So more specifically, we're talking about Blake and Keychack hash primitives in combination with BLS, and that basically gives you it gives you some CK rollup possibilities. And for me, as you probably know, there is enough block space and there's enough room actually on the Cardano blockchain. So this is not, it will give you scalability, but what it really does, which I think is really amazing, it continues down the journey we've started together with the Dubai police and Interpol around the ability to use and verify data on the blockchain without actually leaving the real data footprint on the blockchain. And there's a lot of business cases like centralized security deposits. So the underlying database from a traditional exchange has not been able to move to a blockchain because you can do front running and other things when you can see all the data. But with CK rollups, you actually have the ability to use the data and use it for this trusted handshakes without actually being able to see the underlying data. And that opens up for a lot of enterprises who've been looking at only using a centralized database and authentication schemes together with even private or permission blockchains to really think about this new security architecture. So there was a lot, just in the Chang hard fork, which is sort of, it's 2.5 weeks old now. And again, really amazing that we can do all of those changes while the network still works, meaning that
I think that's
blocks was producing, everybody was smooth, and it's full backward compatible all the way to the Genesis block. So there's no breakage on any dApps or anything like that going backward.
It's very interesting to see the amount of changes that has been running on the network without any interruption. I think that's amazing. And then how 3,000 days is like, oh my God.
It's really mind-blowing, right? Also because normally how you protect an architecture is that all the attack vectors, which means that you have a data center, you have a spillover center under a mountain or in a nuclear bunker where you do an image of your data set on a daily or weekly basis and so on, right? And here you just have everything running synchronization at the same time. Another thing which I think is really interesting, also a little bit on the technical side, right, is a lot of people always say, oh, it can't run on a blockchain, because it has too many transactions or it's too much data and so on. And that's just partly true, right? A true blockchain, the way it's sort of done, it is really about trust and trust mitigation more than it is to create the next sort of, cloud storage solution. But we actually have isomorphic state channels live now with a solution we call Hydra. And Hydra is really, really interesting because it allows you to do a permission setup between the central bank and 5 other banks where they can do unlimited amount of transactions. And should they not be able to reconcile, so either legally or from the transactions, Bank A feels that there's a discrepancy with the sum of the transactions comparing to Bank B, you can basically settle that using the Cardano blockchain, right? So you push that all the way to the Ouroboros and the consensus layer, which is guarded by the 3,000 stake pool operators and the proof of stake algorithm on the mainnet, right? And you can then settle that discrepancy there. And to illustrate how that can be done, right? Because this is where things fall off the rail. We actually did an implementation with the first-person shooter game called Doom, which is kind of interesting. So for those of you who are a bit older and have gray hair like me, we remember Doom, which is one of those amazing old time computer games, right? And there will be spun up on around a Hydra head, the ability that every screen basically is captured in the state channels, right, in this layer 2 solution, right, and can then the hash of that is basically then being locked on the Cardano blockchain. So you can actually sort of start thinking about that, this is no longer about transactions per second. This is actually an irrelevant metric. What you want to get to is you want to actually look at what is the use case, what is the value proposition, and how do you solve that based on a third generation blockchain's technology stack. And last but not least, I know this was already a lot, but it's been a while since we spoke, right? It's been working very hard on our identity wallet. And already 80% of all world trade is connected to a system from the global banking system called legal entity identifiers. And this is basically something that came out of the financial crisis in 2008, and it runs on something called a carry standard. And what we've basically done is we've done an implementation on blockchain or non-blockchain implementation of the carry standard, who has the same security premises of the LEI issuance. That means that you can actually run your LEI numbers, these legal entity identifiers, in a self-sovereign identity wallet on the Cardano blockchain as an adjacent layer, or you can even start anchoring that on the blockchain. And we're really pushing that forward as well, and we're hoping to make some larger announcements around that in the next couple of months to come. But what it really allows you to think about is it allows you to have, the best standardized digital identity schemes, which is already adopted in the sort of the traditional world, and start bringing that into multiple blockchains. Because instead of just saying, oh, this is for Cardano only, what we've done is we open the repos, which basically allows every blockchain and anybody else to basically capture that and basically spin up that type of identity wallet for themselves. And our hope is that then more and more people, such as, for instance, the Cosmos ecosystem, where we just announced a bridge, right, will go in and actually start using that and start interacting with industry players around that kind of high-level self-sovereign identity, or even authenticated identity scheme, which is coming out of these LEI numbers.
Very interesting updates, and huge updates, not just interesting. And as I was browsing the internet this morning, and then I found out that there's a training in Dubai Blockchain Center. So I think this is one of the activities that you mentioned earlier on. And then we'll speak about Dubai, because Dubai has I think a big fingerprint now going forward on your agendas, however you move. So I'll leave the file of Dubai for a few minutes as we move. I just want to understand more what's happening in the ecosystem, because it's been rapidly growing, as you mentioned, as also particularly in decentralized finance or DeFi. Do you envision the evolution of ecosystem? How do you envision the evolution of the ecosystem in the future?
Well, I think what's going to happen is that Cardano has always been about interoperability, and it's not been about one layer one takes over the world. It's really about how you connect to different things. And we first needed to get to a really operation resilient infrastructure with multiple digital features, and have the foundation to build not just a house, but to build global cities on. And that's sort of around the point we are right now. The next thing we needed is to ensure that there's no sort of centralized one actor you need to convey to ensure that your products and services are actually supported in the future. And that's about decentralized governance and getting the governance right. And on top of that, what you really need is a set of identity schemes. With Cardano, we have the carry standard coming out of the Cardano Foundation in open source. We have from IOG the Atala Prism, and we have several community projects also around DITs and verified credentials. Having strong identity and different identity schemes allows you to merge adjacent technologies to the blockchain. Let me give you an example. So this amazing T-shirt from the World Lacrosse Championship has a little radio beacon who sits in here. And what it basically means is that when you buy this, the ticket, you get the T-shirt, and the entry to the stadium, at this case it was the World Lacrosse Championship, right, was engraved in here. And that means that you don't have a paper ticket, and there is, authenticity and fraud and those kind of things is minimized, and you just go over there, you with your t-shirt on, and that also gives you this community feel that you're sort of dressed in the same uniforms, right? And it also automatically tells you where to go at the stadium, right? Because you cannot go into the VIP entrance with this, then you need the bomber jacket. But could you imagine what happens if your life is about lacrosse or soccer or rugby or whatever that might be, right? And you go to the stadium, and this is the one event of the year you've really been looking forward to, and your team is competing in the World Championship. And then suddenly they're like, oh, you're not coming in here. So if you have 8, 9, 10,000 people who can suddenly not enter the stadium because the blockchain or the underlying database is not available to verify the authenticity of the ticket, what you normally get is a riot, right? People get really disappointed, specifically when they hear the signal of the match is starting and they're standing out there with the kids and so on and cannot go in. So in many of these places, even small use cases like verification and the carbon footprint of something like a t-shirt actually opens up for a complete different user experience, but suddenly also becomes a critical infrastructure where you actually need to ensure that the blockchain is always up and available, compared to if you're trading an NFT or something like that. It's okay to wait 10 minutes or 30 minutes or half an hour if there's a technical mistake. But when we start actually putting blockchain in as the infrastructure component under the society we live in, you start moving people around, and you start actually interacting with critical infrastructure. The second thing is that there's a lot about data privacy, and specifically in the European Union and other places, we have very strong data privacy rules. And the introduction of CK rollups, but also the introduction of one-way hash algorithms and tooling like that allows you to actually still operate business models, which today is under scrutiny. You probably saw that Google and others have been paying billions in fines due to their ability or inability to manage data or breaches or be compliant with regulation. And one of the things this can do is that you can actually, through the blockchain, have a one-way communication stream open to the people who purchased the ticket, where you can send them loyalty points and information without you actually harvesting and knowing the first name and last name and the private identifying information. Because often, it would be nice if you have all of that data, but if you have it, you also have the liability of the privacy rules around that. And not always, that trade-off is not always given to be profitable for you. But through the blockchain, you can still then be in contact with the owner of the t-shirt and the people who got that information, which is, again, very interesting. And as we go down that journey on regulation, you saw probably recently that there was the implementation of MiCA, which is this new regulation around stable coins and digital assets in the European Union. And here the Cardano, through the Cardano Foundation, is actually the first layer one, which is completely compliant with that, both in terms of the white papers, but also in terms of the sustainability footprint, which is needed to be there. And there we basically partnered with a German company who basically have now a set of APIs who constantly give you the carbon footprint and the sustainability footprint of the Cardano blockchain at any given time, which allows us to be compliant. So I think what you're going to see is that the blockchain, if the blockchains dare to, and I think I can mention quite a few who dare to, including Cardano, they're going to start moving into areas which has been only proofs of concepts and pilots before and never went into enterprise adoption because of the world we live in. But now the technology is there, the regulatory clarity, the target operating models are there. So is there still work to be done? Yes. But it's a complete different world in 2024 than it was the last 5 years.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned is amazing, especially on the adoption. I wanted to ask you about this specifically. But let me move forward because you mentioned them. So let me move forward on the challenges. I know a lot of things has been happening. So what are those challenges that the Cardano is facing and the foundation planning to address them?
I think what we're trying to do something which has not been done at this scale before around decentralized governance. right? And what you have to be aware of is that, if you have very few people in charge, you can move fast and you can do very small iteration cycles, right? So if you see something is not working, you can change it and move, on, right? When you suddenly are in a situation that you basically give 8 million people the keys to Cardano's future roadmap, including budget, including decision making, and so on. Even though we have the best community out there and a very highly educated and passionate community who basically drives Cardano, it's most likely going to take a while until everything is settled down. And when I say settled down, is that there's a lot of experimentation about, these delegated representatives and getting the constitution just right in the first iteration, and the governance layer is really uncharted territory in many ways, but is also the largest exponential compounder you will see in the next 10 years to get public permissionless infrastructure out as the base layer for the world we live in. So this will slow us down on the short time axis, but we are already known for being somewhere a bit slow because we are very academically and rigorously researched and we do things right. So that's going to definitely be a challenge for us in the next years to come, to ensure that we don't have a certain power asymmetry and other things in there, and we continue fighting the long fight for global blockchain adoption and proving the value of blockchain across society, industry, and use cases. Now the opportunities are quite clear, right? I mean, the world we live in today is way more defragmented than it was 10 years ago. We see way more distrust. We see global rails, both in terms of world trade and macro instability is increasing. And that's exactly places where blockchain has a value position, right? And so I think the opportunities are huge. And with this latest Chang hard fork, I really see so many use cases which was impossible before is becoming now possible to do. So in certain ways, there was a dream called blockchain, and now this dream is actually not just possible; it's likely to happen, huh? And I think this is very positive. But
I think we're living in interesting times. If I wanna call it, it is interesting times, and this is where I really open the Dubai chapter of things and the activities. We know there's Cardano Summit happening. Can you give us an overview? What to expect? What can attendees see? And what are the key themes of this year?
Yeah. So the Cardano Summit is happening in the end of October. We still actually have a couple of tickets left. So if you haven't secured your ticket yet, you should certainly do so. And I will also be able to give you, Rudy, a discount code for your audience if they need a discount code. So we can definitely get that over to you. But I think what really makes me excited is, of course, Abdullah Al-Dahari from the Abu Dhabi Blockchain Center, Dr. Marwan Al-Saouni from the Dubai Blockchain Center, because they've already done a lot of use cases and they're vertically implemented across different industries. But also Yatsu, who's coming from Anamokia brands. So it's going to be like a lot of great speakers, both sort of very famous speakers, but also the CEO of Binance will be there as well. So it's going to be very interesting. The overarching themes is going to be adoption on third generation blockchains. So I think this is, as we just spoke about, the new possibilities, the restrictions. And under adoption, there's going to be also drill down use cases, and there's going to be ability to create teams. There's going to be, a lot of technical people from around the world, but also a lot of business architects, such as Petrobras, one of the world's largest oil companies. United Nations will be there. World Trade Organization is being there. There's going to be global regulators from UAE all the way to Hong Kong. There to basically give you some certainty about the regulatory landscape. So it's really going to be a mixing pot of people who has deep knowledge in an industry vertical or in a technical vertical coming together to explore how blockchain can change an industry, create an economic opportunity, or move society. And I think, spending 2 days around that's, what we see is just, it makes so much time. It makes so much sense. And at the same time, 40 places around the world, we will have community events for the people who unfortunately cannot travel to Dubai and won't be able to see Dubai this year, where we have small mini events who is hooking into the large one with streaming, but also have local speakers and local knowledge and local community participation. The other thing I think is really interesting is we're going to have the Battle of the Builders again, which is highlighting some of the, let's say, some of the more ripe projects on Cardano, who's really looking at the next generation use cases. And some of them are within DeFi, and some of them are within real world adoption. But it's really going to be very interesting to see them very shortly on stage, really showing how far they can actually move technology. The other theme is interoperability among not just other blockchains, but also among normal systems, whether that is governmental systems or the SAS systems or IBM and Oracle. It doesn't really matter. But this idea that you now have solid identity schemes on an immutable operation resilient blockchain allows you for the first time to really think about how you merge data between the normal world of data and the blockchain. And that's basically going to lower the total cost of ownership for the people who are running it. It's going to leverage knowledge, and it's going to streamline operations. So you also see there will be some of the very large UAE companies is going to be there and talk about their experience, but also get inspiration about what can be done. So it's going to be a really good mix of local presence and very big foreign international presence from subject matter experts, not just in blockchain, but in business in general. So I think that's, I'm very much looking forward to it. As you can hear, I'm quite passionate about that.
Indeed. I remember, organizing the 2022 community event in Dubai, and then we were hoping that Cardano by that time will move to Dubai, and the following year it happened. So we were super happy about this, and then here we go. Second year has been chosen again in Dubai. So hopefully this will be kind of a tradition going forward. And yesterday I received an email from Cardano Foundation approving me and approving our platform, DxTalks, as a media partner. So we will be issuing those tickets, discounts as we move within the next couple of days also. I know the tickets are running fast, so get your tickets as faster as you can. We'll try to see if we can get a couple of invites for DxTalks, and then we move forward. I know you've partnered with Dubai Blockchain Center within the last few months, and what can you tell us about this new partnership? What is actually partnering? What does it mean in that aspect? And what are we expecting from this partnership?
Yeah, so I mean, the Dubai Blockchain Center's mission and vision is really to enable emerging technologies such as blockchain for the industries in Dubai and UAE. And a part of that is industry connections to local and global industries who has a footprint in Dubai. Another part of that is upgrading the knowledge and the understanding to what can actually be done. Of course, a lot have been done in terms of digital assets and tokenization, and a lot will still be done within that. You're also seeing some work within CBDCs and, the Duran in the digital format and so forth. And another part of that is sort of more where my heart pumps a lot, even though I am coming more from the traditional banking world, is really how do we merge adjacent technologies with blockchain. And there, I think, specifically the Dubai Blockchain Center has an edge there. So there's a set of let's call it education and pilots and use cases which is being executed at the same time to really ensure not just the Cardano gets a bigger footprint, but that Dubai can benefit of being an attractive country or a nation state in UAE and an attractive infrastructure provider for world trade and a part of the global glue, which we're sort of missing right now in the world we're living in today, to ensure that global trade is continuing. So there's going to be some use cases around that. But it always starts with education and upgrading people, because blockchain has been moving sort of fairly fast, and it is an infrastructure technology. I mean, this is we have to be aware of that this is this is the engine room of a business we're talking about. It's not always the flashy business cards.
Yeah. Are we expecting any special announcement? I'm trying to take any scoops here. So I know you talked a lot about the theme and everything. Do we have any special announcements compared to last year or previous years, or something unique happening this year that people should be excited about?
Yes. Yes, and my PR team, and due to various NDAs and so on, has told me not to mention that. But yes, there will be some announcements for sure.
Okay.
But I think specifically the Cardano Foundation, we've been moving closer and closer towards this idea of open source, not just in terms of public availability of knowledge, but also that the more we actually work with the community and work with the industry and not just compete against each other internally, the better it is. And one of the things I was sort of hoping to announce was the IBC sidechains or partner chains initiative, but because we developed that on the Cosmos SDK and put that into the Cardano Foundation GitHub repository, we saw that the Cosmos ecosystem picked it up. They were having a look in our GitHub, and they were really excited about that. And we're just going through the security reviews of that now. So we will actually also be attending the Cosmoverse event, which is the week before our event in Dubai, which is again amazing that the Cosmos ecosystem has also chosen that. So we will be there as well. But there will be some announcements which is not already spilled out. That's for sure.
Okay, that's very good to keep them, enticed to see during the event what's going to happen. I'm going to start rounding this talk. You mentioned a lot of use cases, and do you think this summit has a foundational footprint for shaping Cardano's future?
I think what shapes Cardano's future is the people who interact, contribute, and gets value of Cardano. And there's multiple ways of gathering them together. And one of the ways we do that is, we have a large summit called Rare Evo up in North America, right? We're going to have a large summit in South America, in Argentina this year, right? We have the Dubai flagship event, but we also see much more activity where people come together and they sit in shared offices and they work across industries and across chains. And we will continue exploring, how people come together to get maximum value, but also to be able to contribute and get economic opportunities out of blockchain such as Cardano. So I know this might be a little bit of a vague answer to your question, but I do believe that people coming together, interacting, socializing is how you create great teams. It's not just the technology. I think summits like this is definitely needed in the future of not just Cardano, but blockchain adoption in general, for sure.
What you mentioned, the community part is super important. One I would believe, because we know so many things where the community is really playing part. Community here, we're not talking about just the enthusiasts. We're talking about here, the foundations, other enterprises, other NGOs, other people that are trying to push this ecosystem. Now,
and you can see already, for instance, in Dubai for a long time we had a very strong community, right? And now we have our first certified implementation provider with SAT in Dubai, right? And that basically created the opportunity for others to say, oh, there is actually sort of opportunity, not just for individual contribution.
That was announced yesterday.
Sorry?
That was announced yesterday, if I'm not mistaken.
That could very well be, yeah. Timeline slip a little bit here, but yeah. So, but what I'm just trying to say is that as more and more people realize the business opportunities, such as SAT has done, they also invest in having people and being able to contribute. And the fact that we now, you can do use cases and you can do pilots and you can run connective applications to the Cardano blockchain with a local provider. I hope this is sort of kickstarting also the opportunities for other companies in Dubai around implementation provider and use cases can be supported locally.
Yeah, very interesting. So I'm going to wind down to my last question, but before I do that, here we go. This is the Cardano Summit event sticker. I don't know if you can see it. I think I'm having some issues here. Can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you, and I can also see the flyer for the Cardano Summit on the screen. Yeah.
So I'll post the registration link as we speak. So buy your tickets as soon as possible because, well, it was an amazing event last year. And we enjoyed also the desert outing and the VIP. I don't think this year there's a similar event, but different types of events. But last year desert excursion was nice. So let me go to my last question. How do you view that role of the Middle East, particularly, because we're talking about Dubai in the global blockchain ecosystem, and how is Cardano positioning itself in this specific market?
I think multiple countries in the Middle East have done big strides towards creating regulatory clarity, but also to create a principle-based regulation and a multiple-year strategy around how to upgrade not just their infrastructure, but how they connect their infrastructure in the future to the global world. And I think this is extremely healthy to do. And that has basically what we've seen is an incredible growth in blockchain innovation, blockchain funding, and talent who's being attracted by the region. So, very impressed to see that. And I really enjoy to see that the Middle East is playing a larger and larger role in the tech landscape, but also in the usage of the tech across the world.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. So here we go. Don't forget summit.cardano.org. Get your tickets. Meet Frederik live at the event itself. So I would like to thank you, Frederik, again for being with us on this exclusive talk, interesting discussion, I would say, because vision on what's happening and what to expect also in the future events, and what to expect also in the Cardano ecosystem itself, because there's a lot of things, for me, even to grasp what you mentioned, I need to maybe replay this first 10 minutes more than 10 times to grasp what was mentioned, because there's a lot of improvements, as you said, even though you mentioned that you move slow, but in a steady steps, so that you are confident of whatever you are implementing. So I would like to thank you for being a guest with us again. See you on the floor of Cardano Summit next month in Dubai. So I'm really happy. I don't know if you want to say one last thing before we end.
No, just looking forward to seeing as many as possible in Dubai, end of October. And if you want to sort of upgrade your knowledge before going there, you feel free to go to Cardano Academy.org, where basically we have a free education bringing them from zero blockchain knowledge to very deep third generation blockchain knowledge. And you can even certify on that if that has some added value, either for your company you work in, or just to be able to be attractive to new employers who's looking for people with experience. So there's multiple ways to engage with Cardano and blockchain in general. And looking forward to meeting you hopefully in Dubai very soon.
So thank you, and thank you for mentioning the training. I'll also put it down. I'm one of the alpha or certified people on that platform when it was pre-launched as a testing ground, and then I was super happy with how it went and how it actually enhanced. So that's it. Thank you, Frederik, and we'll see you soon. And have a good day, all of us. Don't forget to subscribe, share this episode, and see you soon on the ground with Cardano in October 23 and 24.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.